everywhere. Every sport's going crazy. I don't know what to expect. Like, it's FISE.
The crowd is absolutely ecstatic to watch you ride, and the whole atmosphere is absolutely unreal. It's so much fun.
It's so very special because you don't see that anywhere else except for at FISE.
Welcome everybody to beautiful Harlech Park out here in Edmonton, Canada. That's right, it's the third stop of the FISE World Series, and we've made it all the way across the Atlantic to beautiful Canada. I am Ryan Meyer, I am the host here for the FISE World Series, joined by, once again, Daryl Nell. Daryl, thanks so much for joining us all the way out here in Edmonton.
Ryan, it's such an honor being here with all of our top athletes, our amateurs, and all of our fans. Also want to give a big special thanks and love to one of the most inspirational people in the world. That's right, I'm rocking the shirt, showing love to Terry Fox. Today, the mayor in Edmonton made this an official Terry Fox Day. For all of our Canadians, you know he's one of the most inspirational people, but if you don't know, Terry Fox unfortunately was diagnosed with cancer, set out to do the Marathon of Hope, running all the way from the Atlantic to the Pacific across Canada, a marathon a day on a prosthetic leg. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but his memory lives on, and today was a beautiful thing where all the Canadians came together. So it kind of set the tone today, being here for our third stop and our BMX Park final.
And it's amazing. I love so much that you went out there and did the run as well, linking the world together here, Terry Fox did, and as the FISE does for action sports. We started off the tour this year in Montpellier, France, moved for our first time over to Hungary. We are in the city of Budapest. Here we are currently in Edmonton, Canada for the third day of events here in Harlech Park, and finishing it off in the first weekend of November, Chengdu, China is where we'll end the FISE World Series this year in 2017. Make sure you guys get on the map and get out there for 2018 if you have not been yet.
You'll also want to make sure, regardless of FISE, that you put Edmonton on your map of destination to come out to. Obviously, next year we'll be here, same place, same time. But if you get an opportunity, Edmonton is one of the most beautiful cities in all of Canada. It's an urban environment nestled with inside of nature. You could just see the sprawling downtown with these gorgeous views of nature blending one in one. But it's such a young, vibrant city here. So not only do they have recreation centers everywhere, all these parks, but there's also so many festivals that happen. There's hundreds that happen here a year. Edmonton is such a great city and really is the perfect platform, not only for us here with FISE, but also for action sports enthusiasts.
That's right, you said there are many festivals going on here, but it is all about the UCI BMX Freestyle World Cup finals that are happening here for the men right now. You see in the audience, the crowd is out there, and if you guys want to be part of the crowd yourself, but you're not able to make it out to the festival, make sure you tune in to all our social handles. You can find us on Facebook at FISE.official, our Instagram and Twitter handles at FISE World as well. We'll be doing some very unique content on both those channels, so make sure you step up to the plate and get involved with all the action. Hashtag FISE Edmonton for this particular stop of the 20-year anniversary FISE event. Check out That's How You Get Involved with some of the action you see at FISE World. Good morning, you guys. Welcome to day 3 from Edmonton. Check out the best picks from day 2. You can get some very interactive content from hashtagging FISE Edmonton and FISE20. We'd love to hear what you guys think of the FISE World Series.
Yeah, the fact that action sports in 2017 are getting pushed to the level that they're at, and we are so interactive, not only with all of our social platforms, but we got an awesome sponsor. That's right. They're not only a sponsor of the event, but all of our riders use this app, myself included. If you got your smartphone, you just type in Worm into the App Store, and you can download one of the most interactive apps where you could slow-mo your own content, and you can also check out all the top riders, including Logan Martin, who's one of our pros that we'll see in the contest. But right now, we're taking a look at our battlefield. This is the BMX Park course. This was constructed just for this event. Our ramps actually travel around the world, but this FISE event is so unique because it's a larger footprint than we've had at our first 2 stops in Montpellier and Budapest. But we're looking at the center of the battlefield, the ring, if you would. There's all these box jump features that are creating all these different transfers, but we also have that elbow that you can see has that berm corner, the elevated part of the course with quarter pipes on top, wall rides. This course has everything that we've seen in a FISE competition, but all pieced together where the riders have been saying that it's been the most interesting course, not only in practice, not only in our qualifier, because it opens up transfer lines. Look at all of those transitions out there where we're going to see riders jumping from one ramp to another and back and forth, as opposed to just jumping it straight and landing from one takeoff to the landing. We're going to see them actually transferring across the course and opening up all different types of lines when you have the 24 of the world's best riders.
And as you see, there's 24 amazing riders out there on course, but it's a mission to judge them, and it's a mission to get it out in a proper, organized manner. How are we going to get those 24 riders out?
So we got 24 riders, 6 different heats. 4 riders are going to be a piece. They're going to have 2 runs on the clock that are going to be 60 seconds, and it's an overall impression. So by the numbers, 24 riders, 6 heats of 4, 2 runs, 60 seconds per rider, and it's an overall impression. Now, it does not matter if you're in the first heat or the last heat. You are going to be judged against your peers out on the course by one of our 5 judges. And if you look up in the Eagle's Nest right here, that is the overview. And there's one name that's going to stand out among all the rest, Van Homan. That is right. We've got the street legend, Van, who's definitely rewrote what BMX street means. Very talented ramp rider, but he is out here giving his watchful eye. He's one of the most celebrated Nora Cup riders of all time for BMX Street, and the fact that he's out here really helping shine as far as the judges go, very exciting.
You're going to see just an amazing audience of people come out here. Let's take a look and see what it takes to come out on top at the FISE events. This is going to be the highlight run from your winner out in Budapest, Brandon Lupos.
So as we break down our #1 finisher in Budapest, the Australian Brandon Lupos had what it takes. Now that is definitely utilizing the entire 60 seconds, throwing big tricks like that off-axis 720, but a rider wants to utilize the entire course. And in order to do that, you need to have momentum. And to keep your momentum on all these obstacles, you need to land very high on the ramp so you can keep your speed throughout the transition. And actually, if you pump into it, you could build speed, and you conserve energy when you do that. Now, obviously, you got to throw in a lot of tricks. The more difficult, the higher your score will be, but the more difficult they are, the higher the probability you might crash or not be as perfect out there. Now, Ryan, one thing you and I cannot stress enough, we both love to talk about this, and that is style. And that plays such an important part for the riders and their score out there.
Unlike races where you're battling against the clock, out here in BMX, you have the very clear freestyle aspect, and that's where we give the riders their own chance to showcase their personality within their riding style, and that is something exactly we love to see out here for each and every rider.
So as our fans are just funneling into Harlech Park, we are taking a look at our first 12 riders. Again, there are going to be 24, and they're going to be broken down. Some names jumping out at you. Our first rider, Kevin Peraza. He is a current X Games gold medalist. We have Vince Byron, who's another X Games gold medalist in BMX vert. We have Kostya Andreev, the Russian in there, is going to be our 7th rider to go. We got Brian Fox, who, if you remember correctly, in our first stop in Montpellier, threw down a 1080 over a coping spine. The list of riders are absolutely stacked.
And that is just the lower 12. Let's move into the upper with riders like Alex Colborn, Jack Clark, Canadian Mike Varga, the only one we see on that page, as well Ilya Grazev, who we've seen have amazing trick abilities, holding it together all the way through.
But the last 3 riders to go are definitely the ones you want to watch. Your current points leader is Daniel Dhers, coming into our 3rd stop of 4. Brandon Lupos, he won our stop out. He won our last stop. He's not sitting in that top seed, but Logan Martin, the reason he's going to be our last rider to go, he's our defending champion from 2016, so he actually has top honors of being seated in that spot.
Talking about first riders to go is going to be none other than, like you said, X Game medalist Kevin Peraza from the United States. A rider has done justice in BMX and the happiest guy to see go out on the course. He had some difficulties in practice yesterday and the day before. He ended up crashing and hurting the lower left of his back. He said it feels like there's just a massive knot, then ended up falling again, and his bike actually bounced from the floor into his face. But check out the creativity from Peraza as he starts on course.
So Peraza going down on that flare tail whip. That's a backflip 180 with the tail whip. He washed out, but he's able to get back on it. Downside 360 with the tail whip and bar spin in there in reverse order. Peraza going over the extended spine, blasting to the moon. Nose press 360. Peraza tail whip coming back down that waterfall.
Beautiful line choice from Mr. Peraza as he goes over.
So again, it is a 2-run format, something we didn't get an opportunity to talk about yet, but you can see our flags whipping in the background. The wind is definitely a factor. Yesterday we were supposed to have our semifinal. The final was only supposed to be 12 riders, but due to Mother Nature, yes, big flare, we wound up postponing. And right now, it doesn't look like Peraza is too affected by the wind with his first run. He did have that crash, but I don't think that that was a wind factor right there. So Peraza putting down his first run. Again, it's an overall impression. The wind is definitely howling up here. We can feel it in the announcing booth. But when you're out on the course, it's definitely a lot more amplified.
Let's check out some highlights from Peraza's run here. Look at beautiful combinations, 3-trick banger like that 360 bar spin to downside tail whip.
Yeah, so cool the way that he threw the bars and then just dumps down the back end. Here is a flare at height, that time no trouble at all. So Peraza throwing down his first run. Scores are not going to come in until after the heats.
Moving on to the next rider. 28 years old.
The next rider up, 28 years young, Michael Byron from the Czech Republic, dropping in huge helicopter. That's a backflip, double tail whip right out of the gate.
That is a red carpet entrance right there, lofting a 360. We heard the riders talk about the wind and not necessarily wanting to ride out here just because it could throw you off so easily. But Michael does not look affected getting that 360 transfer, double tail whip into the enormous snowplow. So these are going to be crucial moments right here. This is the pivot point, 30 seconds. If he could keep the speed and momentum going as he truck drivers, as a 360 bar spin into a flare tail whip.
Wow.
So that was the trick that Kevin Peraza had some difficulty on, but Michael Byron right now stomping that clean. Foot jam up on the wall, turning around.
A rider who opted not to ride at our last stop in Budapest in the wind. Looks like he's back with vengeance, has a bit of making up to do. He's a rider who seems to be able to do it in all weather conditions, and he definitely is pulling it off here in Canada.
Yeah, it's surprising after seeing his first run that he actually opted not to ride in Budapest, because, I mean, that was a great run right there. You couldn't tell if he was phased at all. It's definitely difficult to ride in the wind. It could gust you to the side, but he is not affected on that backflip double tail whip known as the helicopter, straight into a double bar spin. You saw he threw the handlebars, caught him, threw him again. Very cool the way that we're able to see his run slow down. Again, you want to grab your smartphone, go to the App Store, type in Worm, and you can download their app for a very interactive experience where you can slow-mo not only all of your own content that you could upload, but you can check out our FISE highlights, Battle of Hastings, all other BMX events that happen around the world. But right now, on top of one of the largest ramps out there, looking to ham up the crowd, this is Bryce Tryon.
Bryce, I believe, is only 17 years old. Check out the amplitude on that tuck no-hander race. He makes a transfer from the vert wall to small quarter and back over to that huge sub-landing.
Wow, we're seeing Bryce Tryon really come into his own. There's always that point with the rider where they really grow into their own style, and we're seeing that with Bryce with a 360 tail to bar spin, catching it so clean to set up for that alley-oop no-hander. If that bike looks familiar, that's because he actually lent it to our female rider, Hannah Roberts, whose bike was lost on the airlines coming here. And Bryce said, you know what? I got my fellow rider covered. But right now, his machine is doing him well as he one-foot table over the hip.
The amazing thing, Hannah actually came back to win her event in finals yesterday. So let's see how Bryce can do on the same bike and have some winner's luck to that charm.
So Bryce right there waving it to the crowd, showing some support here in Edmonton for the Californian. Yes, big smile, big run for Bryce. Like I said, the confidence you're seeing coming out of our young rider, just charging a lot of height and a lot of style.
We're going to be moving all the way through these heats as quick as possible. We are on a bit of a time difference. As you said, we had to add the next 12 riders in. We missed our semifinals yesterday, so all these riders are going to a direct final. Vince Byron dropping in for his first run here, starting off strong with that 720.
Vince Byron, that name is synonymous with BMX vert. X Games gold medalist, the only rider to ever beat the dominant Jamie Bestwick in vert, but we're seeing he's such a well-rounded rider, backflipping over the big step up. That box jump is about twice, if not 3 times the size of your average box jump at a skate park. Vince right now on the elevated part of the course. Looks like he's gonna wind up waving it off. You can actually see the flag up there. He might be saying, you know what, the wind is too much. I mean, obviously you don't want to speculate what his thoughts are, but you could feel the gusts out here. And when it's not a consistent wind, it could definitely throw a rider off. But it's surprising considering how strong the first start of his run was, especially with that 720.
So if you guys are just tuning in with us, we are starting the finals for the UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup out here in Edmonton, Canada. That's right, 3rd stop of the FISE World Series. Getting ready to drop for his 2nd run. You see them teeth shining. Kevin Peraza in the house.
For the 2nd run of the BMX legend, the gifted kid, Mr. Kevin Peraza.
Kevin dropping in with this very cool transfer line, touching over on the small box and back into, yes! Oh, and still not quite getting the perfect rotation on that flare whip. Massive amplitude, but all the way to the bottom and a little under-rotated, unfortunately.
That's got to be frustrating. You can see it kind of threw him for a loop right there, looking for that front wheel balance to pivot. 360 up that landing. Oh, wow, that is
going for it and just not getting it. Unfortunately, Kevin's going to throw it up. He's not had the best of luck out here. Like he said, in practice, he ended up hurting his back, and it's feeling like there was a rock stuck in it.
That's very uncharacteristic, though, of Kevin right there. Unfortunately, having a little trouble with that flare tail whip.
That's too bad for Peraza, but we're going to move back up and get the 2nd run underway for Michael Byron. Able to do some incredible tricks on the BMX bike. Known for throwing some big bike flips and crazy combinations in his runs. Whoa! I believe that was a triple 360 whip.
Yeah, it looked like it went around 1, 2, 3 times. Love the nosedive on that 360 no-handed front flip.
Corked out as he gets it around up that step up.
Going almost completely sideways. Just putting some body English on it. Tabletop up the big snowplow. Coming back 360, threading the needle. You saw he landed a little flat. That might have been from the wind accelerating him past the landing.
20 seconds, Michael.
So Michael throwing down a flare right there. I believe that was his opposite direction. There's the bike flip at the buzzer right there, throwing the bike flip around.
At the buzzer, Byron is stoked for that one. 2 great runs, and as you know, The format is 2 runs, both count. It's an overall impression for the judges, and Byron just totally switched up his second run. That's exactly what the judges want to see the riders focus on. Check out some highlights here. That's that 360 triple tail whip. 1, 2, 3 times around with that tail up of the bike. And there's that bike flip at the very end on the small box jump. Byron just elated for the Canadian crowd out here.
So you can see right now our next rider, our third of heat number 1, visualizing what his run is going to be. So much of riding is taking that mental and turning it physical. You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in your skills. And right now, Canada is believing in Bryce Tryon as 60 seconds starts now.
Bryce Tryon, 17 years young. Check out the air that he gets going from that huge whip it vert wall into the small quarter pipe and blasting that massive flare on the opposite side of the park.
Yes, no-handed 360 going up that step. Alley-oop right there. Bryce had that ability to rotate both ways, but that time he's opted for the backflip. No-hander. I love the way he's just, not only is that an alley-oop where a rider travels backwards, but you see him just floating, falling into it. Now you can see utilize that hip coming down through the elbow. 15 seconds as Bryce is looking to pull some big tricks, maybe some tech tricks, but the thing he wants to do is make an impression on the judges that he's going to finish strong. So Bryce right there waving it to the crowd as everybody is flowing here into William Harlick Park as Bryce Tryon wraps up his second run of 2. Again, it is an overall impression. And we move on to our 4th and final rider of heat number 1. So Vince Byron dropping in. We saw him wave off half of his first run, but he's opting for that 720 again. So smooth, Ryan.
Yes, and a beautiful transfer. Like you said, one of the only riders to defeat Jamie Beswick in vert. Shows tremendous strength in his ability to ride a bike.
Yeah, backflip tail whip right there, grabbing the pedals. This was the moment in his first run where he wound up waving it off, landing a little flat. And it looks like Vince is going to do the same. Wait a minute, I stand corrected. Vince dropping back in the ring right now. 450 over our worm hip.
Oh, and the wind picking up actually just now.
Well, the one thing about the wind, it's an even playing field. Every rider's on the same course. Obviously, the gusts are not consistent, so one rider, yes, big flare at the buzzer right there. But, you know, some riders, it might not be as consistent out there, so somebody, hey, you know what, you roll the dice, you get a lot more wind, you get a lot blown to the side, maybe you land a little bit flat. But the odds are in the favor of every rider out there. Mother Nature, you can never predict what she's going to do. And it looks like Vince Byron, though, getting that flare in at the buzzer of his second run. So that means we're going to look at highlights of our entire heat right now, our first 4 riders of 24. There's that backflip double tail whip from Michael Byron. 360, and as you called it, Ryan, that was a triple tail whip, 1, 2, 3 times around. Here's the youngest rider we got out here, Bryce Tryon from California. Vince Byron, again, former X Games gold medalist in BMX vert, throwing down. You see him just waving it off. So we're going to wait for our scores to come in from our 5 judges. Right now you're witnessing our next heat of riders warming it up, getting that blood flowing out there before they drop in for their 2 runs of glory out here. But our judges are going to have to determine what riders are going to be setting the bar, setting the standard for our final. As a judge, you are going to be not only looking at those 4 scores, but you're going to try to see where are the other riders are going to fit. So as scores come in, Michael Byron has a 70.60. That's going to be the score to beat. Bryce Tryon with a 67.20. Vince Byron and Kevin Peraza with 2 throwaway scores there. Vince Byron waved off half of his runs. Kevin, unfortunately, having the crashes on those flare tail whips. So 70.60 with 20 riders to go. It's going to be the bar to beat.
We'll be ready to roll with that second group in just a couple of seconds now. It's going to be the same 2 runs.
So welcome everybody. These are the second heats. The second heat riders getting ready to warm up. It's going to be none other than Cam Peak, Kenneth Tencio, Kostya Andreev, and Sean Gornell, who are warming up for the second heats out here. 24 riders for the finals. We're live in Edmonton, Canada. And Cam Peak will be the first to drop of this second heat.
Just take a look at that flag right there. You can see our worm flag just really blowing in the wind. It's got to get inside the head of a rider before they drop in. You see Cam trying to get focused and in that zone. But you could definitely feel the elements out here. So Cam Peak getting situated. Here we go. Yo, 360 can over the box jump backwards. So any rider can start out from any vantage point on the course that they'd like, and that's how they wind up entering into their run with the 60 seconds going. And Cam opting to jump the box jump backwards, which is a lot more difficult because your landing is steeper. Cam over the step up, 360 tabletop, great style right there, laying it over. And a truck driver going backwards. So that's what we said, it's a little harder. One, because it's a steeper landing, but on that step up, it is a blind landing. So Cam threading the needle, 360 over the camel.
Really showing some unique style in the freestyle aspect of this contest from Cam Peak. Starting off, really, when I accentuate on the style part, tricks like that first trick out of the bag, going backwards on that box jump at that 360 1-foot can, that's really where a rider can showcase some separate character from those just top banger tricks.
So Ryan, it's interesting with this wind, it doesn't really appear that riders have changed their approach too much on the course. Again, if we've got these gusting winds, you'd think maybe they wouldn't opt for the box jump, but Cam Peak styling with that 360 tail up the tabletop. And then here's some tech nibblers at the end of the run. That is a foot jam to bar spin, getting the bars all the way around, putting his foot cleanly on the pedal.
And you know these guys in the machine, ladies and gentlemen.
And our next rider coming from Costa Rica. It's going to be the Red Bull rider, Kenneth Tencio, doing it for Fox Head. A rider who always has very interesting starting drop-ins to his runs. Can only imagine what he's going to do from the top vert wall up here. Coming for a huge flare drop-in. Very signature Tencio start to his FISE runs here. Yes, 720 bar spin going for it on that step up.
Wow, Ryan, talk about fully committed. Kenneth Tencio going for that 720 bar spin. You saw how hard he was really pushing, pulling, trying to get the rotation around over one of the smaller jump as opposed to the box jump. Tencio currently sitting in 14th in our point series. He really wants to make the use of the course and out here in Edmonton to score some of those points that are crucial before our final stop in Chengdu, China. Oh!
Just not getting the distance. Gonna have to call it after that one. Tencio will have to wait and see how he can put things together for his second run.
Wow, so Tencio going for some of those transfers we talked about when we were looking at our course preview. It's very hard to gauge when you jump from ramp to ramp with that wind factor out here, but Tencio starting things off with that backflip drop-in. Again, originally done by the late, great Dave Mira. You see Tencio now adopting that as one of his signatures in the FISE series, and there's a backflip tail whip over the box jump.
Who is that? From Russia, one of the Red Bull riders, Kostya Andreev. Winner of our best trick in Budapest, I believe, with a, or maybe that was even Montpellier. Montpellier, I believe, with a cannonball. Well, we have to just take a replay look at that.
In Montpellier, he did a cannonball seat grab, then to a late tail whip, but there was a bar spin in the middle of it, similar to what he did right there, but imagine throwing a bar spin and a cannonball in the mix. So the Russian has been on fire, really ripping things up this season. Currently, he's sitting in third in our points race.
Traveling around with professional action sports photographer and his girlfriend, Dasha. So really nice to see them out having fun together on this FISE World Series.
Kostya getting the crowd support out here. Looking to charge. Transfer up, yes.
Kostya, yes, just threading the needle on the right side of that step. Nice 1 foot can, and that's going to do it for Mr. Andreev.
So Kostya getting his first run out on that course. Again, this is an overall approach. So every one of the 120 seconds matters because they are being judged. As we taking a look, no-hander, 270. So that's obviously a 90-degree hip. You subtract 90 from 360, that is how you get that 270. And that is how you do an off-axis backflip, almost a barrel roll, so to speak. You just fly through the air, a little bit sideways right there, so the Russian putting down his first run.
And our fourth rider here in heat number 2, finishing off the first rounds from Great Britain, Sean Gornell.
Sean, a new name, a new face right here for our FISE World Series. That is what's so special. We have an opportunity, an open platform in qualifying for all riders to get their chance to make a name for themselves. And right now, Sean with that double tail whip is making his presence felt in our final. He is charging that step up, kicking that downside tail whip, opposite tail whip, but put a little bit of a downside spin on it as far as he kicked and just dipped the bars a little bit.
Having some beautiful flow and tricking every feature as he goes around course.
Yeah, Sean right now almost looking like a veteran out here on the FISE circuit.
And going for that hard lip-to-lip box feature as he gets that 360 downside whip, little nose bonk over the worm hip and back into the bowl section of our course. Getting a few lip tricks on the wall there.
Sean is one of the larger frame riders so far in our final, but he's really shown the finesse on his 20-inch BMX bike. Nice foot jam as 60 seconds wraps up. Throwing a tail whip right there well after the buzzer, so that is just going to be for the fans. The way it works, when the clock buzzer sounds, if a rider is approaching and actually taking off of a ramp, it will count, but if it's after the buzzer, that will not be official for our judges. Great combination, 360 bar spin just cranking into that tabletop.
So some beautiful highlight looks at Sean's first run. Moving back up to the top, Cam Peak is going to be dropping in for his second runs. If you guys have noticed a little change from some of the FISE BMX finals, we usually do a best trick at the end of each heat, but however, due to missing the semifinals from yesterday and having to rack up an extra 12 riders into the schedule today, we decided to put the best trick into the runs. So they are going to be judging out of these runs who puts in the best trick. Beautiful downside tail whip there from Cam Peak. Cam Peak 360 bar spin to tail whip, going into a topside double tail whip.
Cam is charging right now, means business out here. Unfortunately, in 2016, he missed part of the season due to injury, and he's extremely focused. That 360 can-can step through on the step down was one of the great style tricks so far of the contest. Cam juicing it over the camel with that 360, grabbing that transition. Looking to come into our UCI wall with the foot plant. Setting up to go over that hip with the quick nose bonk, showing that, you know what, I got a lot of bike control out here.
There's that alley-oop 180 tail whip. Going for a bit of tech stuff, foot jam on the small box, and going for another little stylish 180 alley-oop.
So let's see if Cam sticks to throwing a couple tech jibs in here as the clock is down. Foot jam on that UCI wall. So Cam Peak taking run 2 of 2. As we break down some of the logistics, bar spin, tail whip, 360.
Going all the way up there. I like that.
And just floating back, lofting the height with the bar spin, lay the bike over on that tabletop. You can see the grounds here in Horlick Park, just gorgeous backdrop. Mother Nature, as we zoom in to the highest feature in the park on top of our UCI wall ride. This is an enormously high wall, and you can see Kenneth Tencio perched upon it.
How do you even get up there to start your run?
That's a very good question. And how is he going to get down? Let's see what Kenneth Tencio is going to do. Whoa!
Whoa! Tencio taking up the flare to the next level, overshooting that front flip. Looks like he juiced a little bit and tweaked his seat. He's going to have to shift that one, I believe, as he moves up.
You can see, yeah, he's trying to reposition the seat with his knees right there, but he still threw a bar spin. Tencio backflip double tail whip, and he just dumps it right out to the side as the bike winds up bouncing. Wow, Tencio out there. I gotta tell you, Ryan, remember last year we were talking about Tencio's riding, how he just stepped it up in 2016, but you could see the focus and the determination that's continuing over into our season this year. As we mentioned, Tencio is currently sitting in 14th place. He wants to get those points. He's definitely capable of doing it. He got 7th in Budapest, and right there, that backflip, the thing that makes that one so unique, it is a tall drop with a short deck into the quarter. So you saw he almost buried his shoulder into the wall in order to grab the transition right there. So not only are you pulling with all your strength, all your might, and jumping backwards with blind faith, you gotta watch your shoulder and grab the transition, what Tencio did.
Massive shout out to late great Dave Mura for that trick as well. Moving forward to Kostya Andreev, currently sitting in 3rd place in the overall. Mr. Andreev consistently blows our minds. 360 bar spin at tuck no hander out of the gate, going for a bit more maybe on that box. Nice Indian air on the quarter to bank.
Wow, 360 throwing the 2-trick variation, but the thing to highlight, that was over the extended spine.
Well, I like how he just set this up as a 3-hit hip rhythm section.
Yeah, and hot hands on the bars right there, double time. Kostya is known for throwing crazy combos together, not only jumping tricks, but also super tech. He can throw them down. The lip tricks are called when they're on the face of the ramp and you're not necessarily clearing the distance of a gap. Let's see if he winds up kind of specializing that with the final moments here.
Five seconds on the clock, but that's going to be enough for Mr. Andreev as he calls it.
Wow, I got to tell you, Ryan, I'm surprised that we're not seeing more riders change their approach out here. Again, they talked about the wind being such a factor yesterday that they didn't ride in their semifinal. That's why we have 24 riders today. They all moved on to the final. But the fact that the wind is even a little bit stronger today, at least from our perspective, not being on the course but being next to it, I'm surprised a lot of riders are still focusing, rolling the dice, airing the box jump, airing the quarter pipes, and we have yet to see somebody say, you know what, I'm going to take it solely with a focus on tech.
Well, let's see how Sean Gornell takes it, as he is a new rider for us here at the FISE. 360 double downside whip, totally not taking it easy on the box jump features. Moving with a 360 on the small box and a flip, a cork flip on that step up. Little bit of lip trick, foot jam there, and a 360 bar spin on the step down.
Wow, Sean is a pleasant surprise here in our final. As we said, this is one of the first times seeing him on the FISE World Series, and he is just tearing it apart. Downside 360 tail whip over that camel.
Beautiful control as he has when he brings his feet back onto the pedals. You don't ever see a hesitation or a double stomp.
Yeah, it's a very good point to put. His confidence level out here speaks volumes through his riding.
Yeah, and wall ride to bar spin back into the quarter pipe. Sean, that's going to about do it. Has time for this one last foot jam. And give it up, everyone, for the top riders out here in heat number 2.
Yeah, Sean wrapping it up with a 540 tail tap on the slanted wall. So that wraps up heat number 2. Our third heat of riders are going to have a moment or two to warm it up as we are waiting for our scores to come in. We're going to look at some replays out here. That was Sean with that double downside tail whip for Mr. Gornell.
Colton Walker, you guys have 2 minutes to warm up.
360 tail whip or 270 whip back into that downside alley-oop whip.
So we're going to start to see full picture as scores come in, because again, if you're in the first heat or the last heat, you're riding against each other. It's very hard for the judges for a final to have 24 riders. Usually there's 12 in a final. But we're looking at the conditions out here. Sun, that is definitely what you want to see. 15 degrees Celsius, wind speed. That is, you don't want to see the number 23, I'll tell you that much. You want to see that one close to 0 out there, but we're seeing 23 kilometers out there. And the course without the wind, I mean, this is perfect. You got the ramps are right, but the wind out there is definitely not ideal conditions.
And a reason why you're actually not seeing the best trick currently in the runs here is because of that wind. Let's take a look at some highlights from the best trick in Budapest, Hungary.
So this is Irek Raizev. Wow!
360 tail whip to bar spin to opposite downside tail whip. That is a mouthful in itself, and what a best trick that was.
And take a look in the super slow-mo right there. You could actually, again, download the Worm app. Super simple. If you got a smartphone you're watching, just go to that app store, type in Worm, W-R-O-R-M, download it, iPhone or Android. You can then check out all content from our FISE Series slow mode. You can upload your own for a super interactive experience. Very cool. Not only are there pro riders, Logan Martin, and you can see his footage on there, but you could put your own and we could follow along as well.
And if you're using that smartphone, make sure you as well tag us into the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and our YouTube, of course. Make sure you hashtag your post FISE Edmonton for this 3rd edition of the FISE World Series, and hashtag FISE20 if you want to stay tuned with all the action that the FISE World Series has to offer this year in 2017. If you're just joining us, we are into heat number 3 now of the UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup Men's Finals. That's right, 24 riders in this final heat, and we're about to get heat 3 underway. Let's take a look back at what happened at the top of heat number 2.
So there's Cam Peak, 360 tail whip to tabletop, laying it over, bar spin to tail whip. So technical out here. Ken Atencio bomb dropping in with that backflip. There was a look on it on that enormous quarter pipe. It was kind of a snowplow, maybe known as a battleship. I remember back at Hackettstown Skate Park, we'd always refer to it as that. But Tencio also did that big backflip in off that wall ride, showing you that he is not afraid to take it to the tall parts of the ramp. But we do have our 3rd heat of riders getting ready as scores coming in. So look at that, Michael Baran is in that 4th spot. Excuse me, there we go. Cam Peak popping into the top spot with a 78.40. And look, newcomer Sean Garnell with a 77 flat. And Kostya Andreev in there in that 3rd place. And Tensio, unfortunately, is going to be down there in 7th with the 33.40. So the score to beat, Cam Peak setting a new standard with a 78.40.
Marin Rantis, that's another rider that we always see up top here, a rider who is doing it for the Croatians. Marin Rantis, your top BMX athlete all the way from Croatia. Last year, we were in Croatia with the FISE, but he's been following us around the world and continues to inspire athletes all over. Marin Rantis, starting out his first run here. 1 minute on the clock, going backwards on that step down into a huge transfer to the backside of that box jump.
Wow, Ryan, I believe that was a triple bar spin. But how interesting was that? Marin started out with that transfer line as opposed to hitting the box jump straight, where you'd almost set up the cleanest for it.
You know, a rider who has so much determination to battle through the odds in Montpellier. He actually ended up breaking his hand and came back only weeks later to still be competing in other contests.
Right now, Marin is currently sitting 13th in our overall series double tail whip. We talked about in Budapest, Marin really coming into his own as a rider, and we are seeing that confidence right here. In 2017, just excel past his high expectations for 2016 as he truck drivers over the camel. Bar spin to no-hander. He's getting the full pull right here. Definitely. For the Croatian rider.
It's something I am very happy to see from Marin. Oh, we spoke too soon as he just over-rotates that flare, but at the buzzer, we'll see if the judges are going to dock him so much on that as it was right at time. Marin Rantis getting a beautiful run in for run 1 of heat number 3.
Yeah, Ryan, we know if a rider falls, obviously points are going to be deducted. It's better if it happens at the end of the run because you could be a lot cleaner throughout the entire with tricks like that front flip, going head over heels. There's not a lot of transition to take off of, so you really got to use your body to get that momentum.
A guy I love to watch ride, has incredible spinning ability. This guy is like a tornado out of the gate. And it's even more impressive to me to see the size, the muscle of this guy. Brian Fox, ready to drop in. Montpellier, we saw him do the 1080 over the spine, the mini ramp contest. Let's see what Fox has coming out of the gate here in Edmonton. Yes, for that huge double backflip, Brian Fox. Right out of the gate with one of his big banger signature tricks. Cork 720 on that step up into a downside whip, back to the box jump. What does he have?
Brian Fox is the big boy from Florida of the United States. Always brings his own excitement here to the FISE World Series, charging high wall ride, get a lot of momentum, backflip, floating over that driveway, flare bar spin. Starting to build up momentum, cranking across the course. Look back over the hip. Brian is staple down in the Floridian scene. Shout out to the Florida BMX Contest Series. It helps give a platform for Brian Fox coming up, and now he's dominating in the FISE World Series. Yeah, you can tell he's excited right there. I think every rider in the world would be if you started out with that double backflip.
Just amazing, huge tricks that this guy has on lock. Check it out 1-2 times. That trick is one of the most deadliest in two-wheel sports. And Fox throws it at the very start, right out of the gate. Ricky Veronique, ready to drop in. Actually, from the United States, I'm for sure pronouncing that wrong. But Ricky
One of our first times seeing Ricky up here, especially in a final for FISE. Again, because of our semifinal being canceled, we have 24 riders in a final. So we're gonna have an opportunity to see Ricky on the big platform out here. Ricky's gonna take a moment, a pause for the cause. You can see our Explore Edmonton flags just behind him, really whipping in the wind. But right now, Ricky over the box.
Oh, going out of the gate with that huge cash roll into a double topside tail whip. As you said, we have not seen him on the FISE circuit, or at least I have not personally, but he is out of the gate with vengeance.
Ricky not slowing down at all. 540 transfer, no-hander. You see him tucking the handlebars up as he goes on the UCI wall ride. Ricky, a pegless rider. Bar spin, backflip. Rotating the handlebars all the way around on that flare as well, and washing out.
He was going for that right-hand hip, and it just turned a bit too much at the flat bottom there. Re-racking and going back up. 2 seconds left. He has time for that one last 450. And that's going to do it for run one there. Hopefully that crash does not hurt him too much in the points. Speaking about bangers out of the gate, let's take a look at that cash roll. How do you explain a trick like that?
It's very unique. First done by Daniel Dhers, then perfected and made popular by Brett Benisewicz. It's such an odd trick. It's almost like you're 180ing, you turn around, you flip, and then continue your rotation around. It almost, though, sometimes looks like you could be doing a front flip if you go early. Just a wild trick all around.
It's totally incredible. I would have never thought when I was riding contests that we'd be seeing people do tricks like this, let alone the double backflips in contests. Colton Walker now dropping in as the next rider on deck. Big backflip bar spin to tail whip.
Colton Walker, freshly minted an X Games gold medal in BMX Dirt. Showing you why. He's got the jumping skills to match. 360, throwing the handlebars. I believe that was 1, 2, possibly
yes,
3 times around.
That was correct. The trip. Oh, I don't know if he cased that and got a flat tire.
He might have gotten a little bit of flat. I know that Colton's got so many fans. Everyone's checking in on social media right now, going nuts, cheering on, especially Jeff McLaren, saying, "Let's go, Colton." But you can see him walking his bike off. That might be a flat tire. He's going to have a few moments to get it together before his second run. Hopefully it's not a back wheel, and if it is, he could change it out for another rider's wheel, or maybe there's another rider here whose bike he wants to borrow.
But moving forward, we will have to on to Marin Rantis, who had a very stellar out of the gate run in his first. Marin Rantis.
Here we go, opting for that transfer again. Didn't get over the knuckle. Saw him hang up. It slowed down his momentum a little bit, and that definitely cost the rider speed and energy. When you got 60 seconds, endurance is the name of the game. As Marin is coming down that waterfall. Oof. Bar spin. The wind is howling, but Marin is firing back with the 270, landing a little flat. I definitely think the wind was a factor in pushing him past that landing. Let's see, you can tell that he's a little bit winded, pun indeed, over the Camel 360. We're not seeing the confidence finishing strong as he did in his first run, and I stand corrected. Oh! Speaking just too soon, going for that front flip, head over heels. Again, that is a mellow takeoff and a very mellow landing. You see him right there grabbing his backside. Hopefully he's all right. Landed on the meaty part of his body and not the tailbone.
Moving through our Heat 3 here. Next rider up, man who got that beautiful double backflip off in his first run from the United States of America, the Floridian Brian Fox.
The Floridian, one of our favorites here. Talk about a rider who always goes big. Brian Fox only has one mode. All right, look at this, hamming it up, getting the support. Fox drop it in, charging our box jump.
Whoa! Mr. Fox, man. Oh! Oh, man, going for, I don't know if he was going for bar spin back, or bar spin back the opposite way. Either way, it got a little messed up, and he is running to catch up again. Going for that huge spin, yes!
Brian Fox rotating around a little bit off axis right there. Hard to see from our house how many rotations that he got around. I believe that might have been 3. Fox with that flare bar spin. Again, that was off axis. And from our perspective, a little bit challenging to see, but the one thing we know, it is awesome as he's going into this hang 5, finding the balance point, grabbing the pedals, and that is moments for Fox, 60 seconds of them to be exact. Wow, so Fox recovering from that bar spin dump on the quarter pipe. You saw him wind up falling down. Started things out though with that explosive double backflip. Recovered mid-run and then had that wild style rotation. Let's take a look right here at the madness from Brian Fox.
There's that 3-spin rotation.
So let's look one more time. 1, 2, 3, there we go. It looked a little bit difficult again from our perspective of our tower right here, especially the way that he wound up pulling his body in, so much going on. To pull the body, be a little bit off axis like that, and get those 3 spins around.
So that 1080, one of the only riders doing that in two-wheeled sports. Next out of the gate, another rider who we saw spin to win out of the top of his run last run around. Going for a different approach, backflip bar spin back instead of that cash roll. That's what the judges like to see. Variety in your lines, as this is a 2-run. Both runs count. It's an overall impression of how well you can ride in the contest as a whole.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Ryan. They don't want to just see the same line on the course with different tricks, but you will be rewarded if you take different course. So if you're looking at a bird's eye view of the course and actually paint a red line, they want to see different tire tracks from beginning to end with also different tricks. Some riders, though, will definitely keep the same course and just throw some variations in there, but they're not going to be rewarded with points as high. So the clock is winding down right there, 450 over that hip. Ricky here. What?
Whoa!
Wow! That was a bunny hop front flip, no takeoff.
Bunny hop front flip into flare on the lip of the box jump.
Did we see that correct? Was that a bunny hop front flip off of flat? We saw Tencio do the backflip drop in off the quarter pipe, but that was a just huck it and send it. So we're looking here, head over heels, launching and just sending it right into that flare on the other quarter pipe.
Next rider up, Colton Walker.
As we said, freshly minted X Games gold medalist, BMX dirt. Yes!
360 double whip to bar spin. Colton Walker, man, that's a trick into that huge transfer over that 360 there. Beautiful 360 tuck on that Campbell feature.
Walker just linking the combos together right there. Tail whip, bar spin, flare. Transferring up, looking to set up. Downside 360, almost in a decade right there. Into that double truck. Walker 20 seconds. This is a big run right here, but the important factor, can Walker keep the momentum to show the judges that not only he's got the big tricks, but he's got the bike control to go the full pull of the 60 seconds.
Three seconds left as the wind is picking up. Does not phase Mr. Walker at all, finishing off perfectly with that flare on the small quarter pipe.
So that means Colton Walker, taking his second run, is going to wrap up heat number 3. As we still have 3 heats to go, we're going to take a look at some of Colton's runs as we look at all of our fans funneling in for our final out there. Next heat is starting to warm up as we look at Colton going around 360 double tail whip to bar spin. Kicking over that hip, style points right there for Walker. Throwing up the hand right there for Colton.
Make sure you guys stay tuned for all the action out here at the FISE Edmonton. Coming up next at 6 p.m. MDT time, we are going to have the Mountain Bike Slopestyle Pro Finals. If you are in the venue, that's just going to be on the opposite side of the park course. You guys are at home. Make sure you stay tuned online for the MTB Slopestyle Finals, which will be coming at your way at 6 p.m.
So as our next group of riders are warming things up, we're going to look at the madness from heat number 3. That was Marin Rantish with that front flip. Boom! Double backflip. Fuse ignited by Brian Fox. There was that cash roll from Ricky Vernick.
And as well, Brian Fox going for that beautiful 1080 coming right out of a hard crash. Ricky as well going for that front foot bunny hop just into flare.
Defying logic right there. Colton as well with that 360 double tail whip to bar spin and kicking a downside whip. Wow, so we got 12 riders who have already taken the course. We have 12 warriors to go. These are going to be your top qualifiers who rode 2 days ago, joining our top 5 finishers that were out in Budapest. So that would be Jeremy Malo, Daniel Sandoval, Jurek Rajzev, Daniel Dhers, and Brandon Lupos. And we have yet to go our defending 2016 FISE World Series champion. But we're looking at our judges up at the tower right now. Dave Cleworth, Van Homan, Brian Kaczynski, Marcus Vilk, and we've got BB, a.k.a. Mr. Romuald Noret, who is a French Trails legend. They do not have an easy job at all. They have to basically break down the madness of all 24 riders, 2 runs apiece. That is 48 runs they got to basically seed in order. And you're doing that when you're seeing them live and on the fly. Not an easy task, but we do have Van Homan, as we mentioned, the street legend in the house. Also hyped to have Brian Kaczynski doing it for GT BMX. He's been doing it for Baco, Chad DeGroot, and Dave Freimuth for decades out there. Street pioneer and ramp big dog. So we're looking at our next seed of riders. This is going to be our 4th rider who's going to drop. It's the Russian right there waving, Alex Nikolin.
We said the Russian riders, they all kind of ride in this heavy pack. And it seems like they're on some new vitamin up there because they are on a different level of riding. It's just amazing, but they're all having such a good time out there together. Let's take a look at the scores after Heat 3. Ricky Veronique moving into 2nd place there with the 77.80. Marin Rantis into 5th place. Brian Fox into 7th. And 9th place, Colton Walker is taking with the 61.80. Still holding top honors, Cam Peak with that 78.40.
Wow, the big story there, the newcomer, Ricky Veronique, sitting strong with the 77.80. The score to beat, though, is that 78.40. No rider has yet cracked into the 80s, let alone the 90s. but we still have 12 of our best riders, and the only reason I say that because they were our highest qualifying riders to go. As we're looking at our first rider of heat number 4, he is doing it for tech riders around the world. He is also doing it for Worm. That means that you can go onto our app and you can see interactive content, not only of Alex Colborn doing slow-mo from contest runs, but also from his regular riding and training.
Bulldog flying it with the 360 triple whip out of the gate into a double bar spin on that quarter pipe, setting up for a hip flip bar spin on that step up, bar to foot jam. Whew.
Colborn making his presence known out here as he is just tearing apart our Edmonton park course. As he's hitting that 30-second mark, Colborn is not stopping, no dead walls, as Alex is just plowing over the hip with a no-hander up on the UCI wall ride, charging back at us, keeping it going. 360 double bar spin, 1-2 times around.
Flare bar spin. We have not seen many of those today either. You see that he is on a level of wanting to get to that podium and break the 80s.
Ryan, right now his run is looking like a highlight reel. Bar spin, foot jam, 3, 2, 1, tailwhip. Big run for Colborn.
Woo! In the bag, that's how you do it.
Wow, that was an action-packed run. Not only did Colborn have big tricks, but Ryan, the thing to note, the entire 60 seconds was utilized, came out swinging right there, rotating that back end around, and here's a look at the 360 double bar spin. But Colborn kept that momentum from the first second all the way to the last. Didn't have any dead walls in there, and if he could keep it up on his second run, I have a feeling he might shake up that leaderboard.
Speaking about boys, you're able to shake things up in the 2017 World Tour. Jack Clark from Essex, dropping in a man who has his own style, tenfold, 360 double bar backwards on that box jump, invert, no toothpick on that quarter there, backflip, invert.
Jack Clark lightening up with that double bar spin, 540. Clark finished 5th overall in 2016. Right now, JC, the Jack Clark, rotating around. It's so hard to find the landing on that extended spine. That is so steep. It's a takeoff to takeoff, but Clark getting it done. Jack Clark currently sitting 19th overall. Jack Clark, no stranger to the podium in our final, so I have a feeling that he could potentially move up a lot if he could bat himself a great score here in Edmonton.
Yeah, just showing a lot of diversity in his trick ability, doing some very beautiful style on that 360 table. Oh, and doing the distance right at the buzzer there. Let's see, one last 540 tabletop for that run one of Jack Clark. We're 4 heats deep so far of 6, 24 riders in this heavy packed final in Edmonton. There were so many highlights in that run. I don't even know if our camera crew can decide on one. I think we might just be going up to top for your one and only Canadian of the finals here, Mike Varga.
So Varga, hailing from Eastern Canada, rides at Local Boy just outside of Toronto, Joyride 150. The crowd right now showing the love for the Canadian. Varga dropping. The clock has been started as it goes tick-tock, tick-tock, boom.
Ooh, going for that huge transfer with the decade.
Nice quick wall ride, setting up the transfer into the box jump from that extended spine. The wind has just picked up a few kilometers here as he is charging. Yes!
360 double whip. Airing back across the wall, unique way to get back into that quarter lip feature. And another 360 downside whip on the step up or decade. Flowing back to the left side of the park. Whoa, 900.
Varga up there doing that 2.5 circles, first done by Matt Hoffman, actually in Canada, believe it or not. And Varga right now
That was it was almost another 900. What it
So it's a 720 plus 90, 810 over the hip right there. Varga showing you that he's got that control to just spin to hopefully win. See him getting some props up there. Varga, though, putting down a solid number run.
Check out some highlights from the top Canadian out here on the FISE circuit.
Look at that, so committed over his shoulder. Puts his body vertical to speed up the rotation, but had that full commitment looking for the landing right there. On a 540, you've got a moment of blindness. On a 900, there are not only 2 moments of blindness, but you're spinning so fast you can really lose where you're standing, but Varga's smashing it clean.
Alex Nicolin, if you guys are watching our Instagram live, I did a little feature before we went live out here, and Nicolin gave a little insight to what he might be doing as a huge transfer. Yes! There's that huge 540 alley-oop flare.
Nicolin starting out big with that front flip as well. He is charging the Russian made in business. Yes!
Beautiful cork 720 into that double topside whip.
Nicolin is one of my favorite riders to watch because he does have the style to match. We are seeing him do the big tricks for the contest, but if you ever watch him ride just stripped down when he's not competing, he just can tear across the park, and now he's doing it with the big tricks and a big transfer quarter to quarter. First rider we saw set up for a worm hip like that. Nicolin, toboggan, 10 seconds to go with the quick UCI wall ride.
See what he has finishing off there with that flare right at the buzzer. Alex Nicolin, very solid run for run 1.
What a first run.
Let's take a look right out of the gate there. It's a huge flare, 540 or 540 alley-oop flare. We're going to start with second runs. Alex Colborn, Bulldog, came ferociously out of the gate in his first run. Let's see if he switches it up. He is a man who we know can stay on top of the podium here.
Colborn also is a tech master of lip tricks, so if the wind tends to be a factor that's too strong, Colborn could easily switch things up and get super tech as opposed to airing in the sky over the box or quarter pipes where the wind will take you. So it's interesting to see if he'll change things up for run number 2, but the important thing is Colborn had a solid first run. If he could even do half of that, he might be shaking up the board. 720 bar spin. Colborn, a lot of height on that double tail whip. Bar spin, quarter, transfer. Coming in, bar spin, foot jam, can for style points. Colborn's looking consistent in run number 2. Can over, finding that hip. Colborn trying to dig deep right here. Tail whip in, wall ride, great setup right there, utilizing the flat bottom to bypass that elbow. Off axis backflip. This is another big run for Alex.
Huge flare tail whip on that quarter pipe, and let's see if Alex gets some lip tricks in this hip pocket section.
These are crucial moments. Wall tap set up for the 540, bar spin, foot jab, pogoing around. Yes!
Alex Colborn delivering for 2 runs. We'll have to wait and see how the judges score that overall.
I gotta tell you, Ryan, we are not the judges to put in the scores, but I just have a lot of feeling right there in Colborn, 2 big runs, that the Worm Rider has what it takes to potentially shake up that board.
Beautiful 720 bar spin there, and amazing technical ability as he comes to the later part of his run. Not going for the 540 foot jam, he tricked us back around one more time.
Again, that Worm Rider, all you got to do is download their app for a full interactive experience at your fingertips, where you can see a lot of unique content that Alex Colborn uploads. You can do the same yourself. We also have a lot of our featured athletes here at the FISE World Series, all of our stops with broken down slow-mo content that you can break through and check out, and also help expand your own riding to see some of the madness and the way our riders get it done. But right now, Jack Clark popping up onto the quarter pipe, quenching his thirst up there as he's getting ready for the 60 seconds to come in. I believe he had a little bit of bike maintenance to do last second as Jack Clark over the box jump backwards. That is a step up, so that would be a step down. You see him smashing his front peg, charging, 360 tail up the tabletop.
Beautiful 540 invert, and the way that he does it is so unique as he does the tabletop. It looks like his bike goes straight down, but he's getting a perfect flat table out of it. 360 bar spin on the step down feature, and a huge hip flip transfer from small box to the camel landing. Clark shredding across course and into the UCI wall ride with a dark side foot plant.
Clark looking to keep it going right here. Transfer, oh, excuse me. He was just charging so fast. He said, I'm going up, not out, with that 540 tabletop. Bar spin 450 over the hip. And JC with an opposite bar spin at the buzzer. You see him just shake his head a little to the side and said, you know what, I'll take it. I'll take it, but again, it's not up to us. It is up to the judges. This is a 24-man final. And Jack Clark is our second rider of heat number 4 of 6. As we look at Clark, this was that 540. Again, he was charging so fast, it looked like he was going to transfer, and he took that momentum and went up instead of out.
You guys are just tuning in. We are 4 heats deep. The UCI BMX Freestyle World Cup out here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And that is none other than the top Canadian BMX freestyle athlete, Mike Varga, dropping in on his second run. Going for a huge transfer, 360 downside tail whip. Varga shredding back across course, opposite way on that transfer, 360 bar spin as he flows up into the worm quarter pipe with a nice bar spin and back to the box jump feature. Sending a big backflip.
So Varga right now keeping it rolling, 360 double bar spin, finding the transition, setting up for the backflip. Varga into our worm quarter pipe, down the waterfall, going for the transfer. Didn't go the full distance to set up for the quarter, 540 bar spin. 360 tail whip, Varga just igniting our course here on fire in Edmonton. He's got the crowd support. I know that he's got our support. And right now, Varga, 450 tail whip, ice pick, back peg stall, in the camel and a 360 out, putting a nice little bookend on his run. So Varga right there waving it with Edmonton, showing the love. That's the thing I got to tell you, Ryan, the Canadian people, amazing. You know, spending time in Van, hometown.
Yeah, I'm very excited to take the FISE all the way over to Canada. And I have to say a huge shout out to the FISE organization for being so behind action sports as a whole, and for the city of Edmonton and Explore Edmonton for welcoming us over here. It's just been an absolutely amazing experience. We're in this beautiful historic park of Harlech, Edmonton, and I couldn't ask for anything more. It is a little windy, but weather is beautiful and the crowd is out here. We are in Canada after all. There's not snow on the ground, so there's nothing we can complain about. Alex Nicolin dropping in with that big flare drop in.
Wow, Nicolin getting it done with his first trick, setting the standard for his second run here.
Oh, wow, going for that alley-oop 540 transfer from quarter to landing. Whoa, Alex Nicolin going for a huge front flip, tuck no-hander to turn down.
That is a killer combination. Nicolin, a pegless and brakeless rider, stripped down bike, stripped down style. but still has the big moves to match. Let's see what Nikolin's gonna do. Yes! Front flip, driveway to driveway. Oh!
Yes, and stomps it. Beautiful 540 alley-oop flare to finish it off at the buzzer. Alex Nicolin, that's going to be the last rider out for heat number 4. We're going to wait and see how the judges score the runs of our last 4 riders and how that ends up in the mix of our other top riders who have gone previously. Check out some replays. There was that front flip tuck no-hander to turn down.
And that alley-oop 540 flare. You could see the way he tucked his back end up to get that additional boost into the quarter pipe as heat number 5 warms up. So again, we've got 16 riders down, 8 riders to go. These are your top qualifiers along with your top finishers from Budapest.
As we're waiting for the scores from the judges, we were talking previously about that best trick in Montpellier from Kostya Andreev. Let's take a look back and see how he took over best trick in France. Here you have it. There's that cannonball seat grab bar spin to tail whip. I mean, that was, in my opinion, one of the most difficult tricks I've ever seen on a bike. So as you see there, he goes cannonball seat grab, spins the handlebars, and comes back and throws a tail whip with his hand from the seat. I can't even dream of tricks like that, let alone how he has thought about it and executed it in a contest format like this.
Insane to look at the level of riding. If you want to take a highlight at that at any time, again, our Worm app, you can actually see Kostya Andreev's best trick in Montpellier at any time. Again, you just download that app to your smartphone, and you can see a lot of the highlights from our FISE World Series on there in slow motion for the interactive experience, and say, how could I potentially learn that trick? I'm going to say good luck if that is the case. But again, that app is so cool. The fact that you could upload your own content. So much of action sports right now is the fact that it's interactive, not only on social media, but the fact that you can have this interactive experience at your fingertips and really manipulate the content, but also have a platform to share it, makes it such a unique experience, not only for riders around the world, but also for helping build a scene online. So it's so cool, the fact that you can really break down all the action with BMX. But we're looking at our judges panel up there, having a good time. You can actually see DJ Mike Rock as well. He's the tallest silhouette up in the Eagles perch. He's keeping the tunes bumping on our entire World Series.
As we wait for the judges to tally up those scores in our next heat to warm up in 2 minutes, let's take a highlight look and see what's happened so far. There you see Alex Colborn with that massive trick, Mike Varga with that 360 double whip and that huge 900. Taking a look into Alex Nicolin with that 540 alley-oop flare. Colborn going for that huge lip trick. And Jack Clark, man, that is a hard one to tally up the scores of. I do not want to be a judge at this point, but there are still 8 riders to go. We're 16 deep, and let's see how those last 4 stacked up against the rest. Weather out here, it's sunny, it's beautiful, it's 15 degrees, a little nipply, but the wind, that's what you really need to pay attention to. 23 kilometers an hour, that is incredibly high for a freestyle event. But the riders are doing their best and putting on an amazing show out here in Edmonton.
So we still have 8 riders yet to go. As we mentioned, we've got our top qualifiers getting ready. As scores coming in, we got a new leader. Look at that. We told you Alex Colborn was going to shake things up, and that he did with an 84.20. The Canadian moving up with an 83 of Mike Varga, and Jack Clark smashing it with an 82.20. And then the Russian down there in 11th, Alex Nicolin with an a 68.60. But one thing to note, all three riders that moved into 1, 2, and 3 are in the 80s. So Colborn raising the standard with an 84.20, but we still have 8 riders yet to go. These were our top qualifiers and our top finishers out in Budapest, along with our returning FISE World Series champion, Logan Martin.
A man who we have seen on many podiums in BMX history. He has been short-lived so far, but he has already got himself to legendary status. Pat Casey doing justice out there. Beautiful Cannonball has one of the most incredible backyards of anyone's dream. Going into that beautiful cash roll with hardly any speed, might I add, as Casey flows back across course.
Casey currently sitting in 10th in her point series as he does a 180 tail whip. You see him utilizing that free coaster back wheel. That means when he travels backwards, his cranks do not engage, allowing for a smoother fakie landing, and he's able to get that 180 revert around as Casey's approaching 15 seconds.
Yes, wall slap to tail whip on that UCI wall as he goes over to the smaller FISE box, showing a lot of differentiation within his tricks there. 180 bar spin, a half cab, back into the Explore Edmonton landing. Pat Casey doing it different and throwing the hands up for run 1 here in heat number 5.
Wow, so Casey getting a good one for the books right there. But again, it's overall impression. And I got to tell you, his first run left a great impression with me, but it's going to be that consistency, which we saw paying off for Alex Colborn, who is our current leader, with, again, the 84.2 is the score to beat. So you can see Casey up there a little bit winded on the quarter. He's going to have some time to regain his composure.
Moving forward into the gate. You saw Daniel Sandoval on deck there. That means we have some other amazing talent coming up. But Nick Bruce, what can we say about this young American rider?
Well, we could say that he's definitely a fitness enthusiast and is so committed to riding. He's from Youngstown, Ohio area. He spends a lot of time not only riding on a daily basis, but definitely been spending a lot of time training and putting a lot of focus on his bike. He's committed to really pushing himself, not only physically, but also mentally, where he likes to be in top form. And right now, Bruce out here showing a 360 flip over the camel.
Wow, that is an incredibly difficult feature to do that trick on. Transferring with that turn down, Nick Bruce showing what he has.
The reason that was so difficult as well, you have to thread the needle. And Bruce right there, 360 tail whip, kicking it back the other way. That is the windshield wiper, first done by Alessandro Barbero.
What a beautiful name for that trick as well, I might add.
Really, and Bruce doing it in the 360 tabletop. Coming back at us. These are crucial moments here as Bruce is setting up. Let's see what he's gonna do, digging down. Double tail whip over the hip, showing you that endurance pays off.
Wow, Nick Bruce really pushed it all the way until the end there. Even on the small left-hand hip, throwing that double tail whip, really dug deep into his bag. Let's check out some highlights there from Nick Bruce as he came strong out of the gate. Look at that 360 windshield wiper.
You watch the way he just kicks his foot on that back end around. It says, you know what, it's going one way, and instead of putting his feet on the pedal, says not so fast, and kicks it around.
Jeremy Mallet, this is an all-American heat, it looks like, as Mr. Jeremy Mallet is getting ready to drop in on his hyper bike there.
So Jeremy finished in 5th in Budapest, so he automatically qualified for our semi, but since the wind wound up canceling it, the 24 riders that would have been in our semi is now in our final. So Jeremy, bar spin to no-hander, first time we're seeing him on the course all weekend long.
Mallet, as he gets around course here, tuck no-hander. Transferring. Nice downside tail up there. And what does he have coming back into the other hip section? Going for that 270 tuck no-hander. Last 15 seconds left of Mallet's run.
Up! Looking to go tech right there for a rollout, maybe a half cab in. Washes out a little bit. You see Jeremy right there grabbing his side. Hopefully it's not a past injury. Hopefully he's just catching his breath. But it looks like he's definitely in some pain out there. A lot of our riders are gladiators and definitely like to put on a show for all of our fans and also try to get those points because this is a points race. So Jeremy out there, you can see he's battling his physical ailments. Jeremy currently sitting 12th for our overall points.
Going to our 4th American rider out here in heat number 5, none other than Daniel Sandoval.
Sandoval finished 4th in Budapest. Again, that is why he's granted his slot right here. Dropping in heat 5, charging.
Beautiful dump 360 bar spin there. Whoa, triple tail whip air out of that. Huge transfer on the 360 bar spin.
Coming in hot right there. You saw he caught the top of the landing of the camel, cruising with that 360 downside whip. Sandoval was one of the riders who put the downside 360s with bar spins in and out on the map. Remember when he was unleashing that in the world at Rebel Jam in Eindhoven about 5 or 6 years ago, and now it's become a staple. So he's riding, even though he's a younger rider, front flip, definitely has a huge impact on BMX. Daniel charging back at us. A previous X Games gold medalist. Yes!
Whoa, front flip flare. Yes, Daniel Sandoval into a double tail whip. That was action-packed.
Throwing up the signal right there to Edmonton as our crowd just loves the American hailing from Corona, California. See him giving his teammate down there, the Russian Irik Ryzev, a pound. Getting some water from Kenneth Tencio as he's coming up. Triple tail whip.
That was just amazing starting out of the gate there. And as well to throw that front flip flare. I think we have a replay of it right there. What an incredible trick.
It's known as the lawn dart.
Ah, is that called a lawn dart?
First done by Keith McElhaney on a vert ramp, and right there we see that lawn dart going down. But we're going back to the top of the list for run at number 2. Casey smashed a solid one, looking to keep that consistency going. Again, the score to beat is an 84.20. Alex Colborn, our current leader, as Casey's cruising in for run number 2, kicking that downside tail whip, charging with the 360 bar spin. There's a cannonball, taking it all off, grabbing the seat, pushing it out there. Ooh, cash roll, somehow keeping it together. When your name is Pat Casey, you can defy all odds and keep it rolling. 180 tail whip, yes, Pat, so consistent on these hard tricks right here. 270 tail whip. This is going to be a very important moment for Pat. These 19 seconds are going to make the difference between a potential podium spot or not. Foot jam on the coping, dropping into the toothpick. Manual across the driveway. How is he going to put his final moments and final thoughts together? Wall ride tail whip.
Yeah, Pat Casey.
The Mongoose rider waving it on up. Getting cheered on by his team manager, Lee Ramsdale. Seeing Mongoose representing out here as Casey puts in a solid run too, and I have a very good feeling about Casey as well, that we potentially might see him in one of the top spots with those 2 runs. But again, we are not the judges, but judging by all of your hashtags coming in and your tweets cheering on Pat Casey, I think you feel the same way.
Okay, let's take a look here. So
you can see that silhouette of the brawler from Youngstown, Ohio, Nick Bruce, but the thing to note is our worm flag just flapping in the wind. If you were to see that in super slow-mo, it would say that it's around 23 kilometers an hour.
That's right, starting it off, Nick Bruce dropping in for his 2nd run here. 360 whip backwards on the Explore Edmonton box jump, going into that step-up feature. Oh, a little bit of a hang-up.
So you see Nick Bruce right there, that really zonked his momentum, but he did have a unique start that's very different from his first run. The judges do note that double tailwhip transfer. Yes, Bruce firing back from that case, flare, bar spin. You see him really pump that transition, coming in hot, 2 trot. Yes, backflip, 2 tailwhips around. Bruce. 360 tailwhip transfer. You see the way he just smashed his feet right onto the pedals with confidence. Yes, Nick, floating around that head tube. Oh, Nick Bruce going down right there on that flare transfer with the rotation. I believe that was 40 flare. Again, a little hard to see from our house. But the thing that wasn't hard to see was that was a big run for Nick up until that moment that he did crash. There was about 10 seconds left on the clock, maybe 15. That definitely is going to impact his score. Prior to that, he'd had 2 solid runs. But we're going to look at Nick Bruce, 360 tailwhip, such a unique way to start his run. Again, a step up backwards as a step down. It's hard to do backwards because it's blind. And here's a look at the backflip tailwhip. He does it very differently than Michael Baran, who we saw earlier. He's a little bit off to the side of the bike as opposed to having that back end up above him.
In run number 1 at the end of Jeremy Mallet's final, we saw that he was favoring that rib cage of his. Looks like he had probably gone down hard in training, and he's still pushing through like gladiator form, tossing a beautiful cork 720 out there on the box jump feature. Riding with injuries like that is something that these riders are very accustomed to. But I tell you, it's no easy feat. Pain still is the same feeling for these riders as it is for every one of us out there.
So Jeremy right there showing some originality. Backflip off the knuckle of the box jump landing. It was a move that favored him well out in Budapest. Scored him that 5th place spot. Again, that is why he qualified where he's at. He did not have to ride in our qualifier and move to the semi. But this is the final. Let's see. Oh! Yes. Drop it in fakie right there from the deck of the landing. Throwing down that 5-4-0, circle and a half at the buzzer. So Jeremy Mallet, our 3rd rider, heat number 5, throwing it down. As we take a look at Jeremy backflip, backwards landing, and then not gonna go in the traditional way. Says, you know what, I'm gonna put this thing in reverse. Backing it up, beep, 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 gets that rollout, and it's a great way to end his 2nd run.
We have one more rider to finish off the 5th heat here. Daniel Sandoval. As you see in your highlights there, landed the first, not too sure. Daniel Sandoval ready to drop in here. I think the first time I saw Sandoval was in San Diego at Claremont Skate Park. Rolled in and had a little bit of a bike session, a little game of bike with, who else? I think with another bunch of professionals, and it just blew me away. It's crazy. I'm out here hosting contests with them and yourself.
Well, Ryan, it's exciting being here with you in Edmonton, especially with not only the world-class caliber riders we're watching, but the fact that we have amateurs out here as well. We've got that open platform, but especially all of our fans who are cheering on Daniel Sandoval as he drops in for his 2nd chance in the ring, looking to swing a haymaker. Yes!
Wow.
360 bar spin to tail whip. You see him just laying over that tabletop, his feet peeling off the pedals as he's so committed, putting so much pressure on the bike as he lays it over. Sandoval charging back, a lot of speed over the camel.
Wow, yes. Beautiful 360 downside tail whip there. He is made famous the 360 downside whip variations as well. Sandoval with that 270 bar spin. Yeah, and going front flip the hard way. Very short kicker right beside that wedge feature.
Also very hard way he came from the speed. He didn't set up, and there's that front flip, that lawn dart. You see him getting psyched, throwing it up, the double deuce right there. Sandoval being awarded a nice round of applause, hopefully getting awarded a great score from our judging panel. So Sandoval there wrapping up heat number 5. That means that we still have 4 riders to go. These are our top finishers from our second stop out in Budapest, and your 2016 champion Logan Martin are going to warm things up as we look at that front flip from Sandoval, head over heels, 2 wheels, and there is an alley-oop tail whip.
So far, we are 20 riders deep with this 24-man heat for the finals here of the UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup in Edmonton. How are you feeling about the contest so far?
I'm excited on this course. The fact that we have so many transfers, we're really seeing a lot of riders utilize it. Even though the wind is howling out here at over 23 kilometers per hour, you do have the riders pushing themselves, fighting the elements, and really, if you look at the odds in their runs, faring well. Even though we don't have any scores into the 90s, the score to beat is Alex Colborn at 84.20. It's a little bit lower than we traditionally have, and that could be because of the weather. Every rider is putting their heart on the line out here.
Speaking about riders who are able to do justice weekend after weekend, let's take a look back at our series leader and his season, Daniel Dhers.
I hope you guys are ready.
2016 with Logan Martin. They traded off 1 and 2, 1 and 2, but when it came down to it, in 2016, Logan Martin took top honors. Well, now that it's 2017, we're looking at Daniel Dhers. He is our current leader because in our first stop in Montpellier with this run right here, he scored 3rd place with 8,200 points. Then in our second stop, very uncharacteristic of our defending champion Logan Martin, he did not place in the finals. Daniel Dhers got 2nd place and got a big round of points, 9,000 to be exact. So that means he's our current points leader with 9,000 points. But since this is going to be a 4-stop series, every single finish matters. So Daniel Dhers knows that this is an opportunity to potentially distance himself from the rest of the pack out here, but he's got Brandon Lupos, who is less than 1,000 points away, currently sitting in 2nd, followed by Kostya Andreev. But we're seeing why Daniel Dhers has been on the top of a lot of podiums in BMX contests with big tricks like that signature off-axis 720, 360 tail whip. And the thing to note that when Daniel came onto the scene over a decade ago, those tricks were not staples. A lot of younger riders might go, hey, a lot of guys are doing off-axis 720s. At the time, no one else was. Daniel definitely brought his own style where he went to Woodward Camp. He spent hours practicing the same trick over and over and over, very repetitive. A lot of riders didn't do that at the time as well, but he got a lot of his tricks on lock, and he can really do them at the push of a button over a lot of different obstacles, where maybe some other riders might focus a little more on creativity aspect. Daniel is very consistent, and it's a lot of props and credit to him, and that's the way he rides, and he's looking to be on top and put a 2017 FISE World Series champion under his name.
And that's why we are able to see Daniel Dhers on top of the leaderboard for almost every single BMX professional contest out there to date. He's been at it for more than a decade, and he's still doing justice. Like we said, he's standing in the 1st position of our series leaderboard, and he is the the 2nd person who's going to be dropping, pardon me, in this last heat, the 6th heat out here of 24 riders.
So we are still waiting for scores to come in. Again, Alex Colborn's got that top spot on lock. The score to beat is an 84.20. The question is, can any of our athletes from heat number 5 bump Alex Colborn to that top position? And look at that, we have a new leader, Daniel Sandoval, rocketing into with an 88.20, that number 1 spot. We got Pat Casey with an 81.20 and Nick Bruce in the 80s as well with an 80.20. And then we are seeing Jeremy Mallet back with a 15th place current sitting with the 67.60. But the big story, Daniel Sandoval distancing himself with almost a 4-point lead ahead of Alex Colborn. That is a huge margin considering these wind conditions that are out here, but we still have our 4 top riders to go. These are our top 3 finishers at our last stop in Budapest, and your defending 2016 champion.
And your defending best trick champion from Budapest, Irek Rajzev, dropping in. Huge transfer double tail whip, starting things off. Alley-oop tail whip to tuck no-hander. Amazing combinations and a beautifully clicked turn down. Whoa, into a 360 bar to downside tail whip.
Irek is just charging with this confidence that's on a whole nother level, even for the Russian, currently sitting 5th place overall points. You can see his big body just leaning forward on that double tail whip, so committed over the handlebars, pressing that front wheel unlooked down transfer.
That was a new one for me. I believe it was a 360 bar spin to Indian Air. We're gonna have to take a look back on that. Indian Air, Superman C-Crab on that, and a huge transfer, 360 over the channel there. Front flip to flat and just not quite getting that rotation. Irek, man, this kid was on fire. Nose pick 360, back down, getting a couple lip tricks at the end of the buzzer.
You could potentially see a podium right there just slipping through his fingers as he fell onto his backside right there. Again, I never want to count a rider out because he still has a whole second run, but when we're talking about 24 of the world's best, we're definitely aiming towards perfection. But smashing a very solid first start of his run. There's the double tail whip around. Irek definitely had a confidence level that I loved seeing in his run, just charging. But if you're gonna talk about confidence, if you're gonna talk about getting in the zone, and you're gonna mention BMX freestyle, you bring up our next rider who's been on the top of every single major contest, where he's put the gold medal around his neck from X Games. He's held up the Dew Cups. He's put champions in their place with consistency. This is the rider from Venezuela, currently living in North Carolina, and wants to get that number 1 spot from our current champion, Logan Martin. He's currently sitting in our top point spot with 17,200 points as 60 seconds are locked on the clock for Daniel Dhers.
They call him the king of consistency. Mr. Dhers dropping in. Yes, huge transfer. Oh, onto the camelback. Yes, nice topside double tail whip.
Dhers transferring that 360 tail whip. Dhers always looks at his runs from a strategical standpoint of saying, how can I hit every single ramp on the course and put my tricks down? And Daniel is actually not holding back with that 360 double tail whip over the camel. Again, you got to thread the needle. It's a very narrow jump. There's an opposite 360 with the bar spin. Daniel at that halfway mark, coming back at us, no-handed 720.
There's one of those signature tricks that Daniel started off with, that cork 720 tuck no-hander. As we said, he does have still some amazing signature tricks that still no one does, said like that 360 no-fit can to tail, which I've yet to see so far.
So Daniel right here gonna wrap things up with that invert flare. Putting it up right there, getting appreciation for our current points leader. Edmonton going nuts right now, cheering on Daniel Dhers. It's gonna be interesting to see if Daniel for his second run is gonna take the same approach or switch things up, but there's that double tail whip. You see his feet going a little bit wild style right there, but able to get the pedal similar on that 360 double tail whip.
Very difficult trick to do over those camel humps.
Especially with the wind, it could blow a rider side to side.
Moving into a man who doesn't seem to be fazed in the slightest by the wind. When all other riders were calling off in Heat 1 in Budapest because the wind was a little too much for them, Lupos was the one man to say, okay, let's drop in, and ended up getting his winning runs out of that. Brandon Lupos, the Australian boy, is dropping in here for the first time in Edmonton. Huge flare drop in, right into a nice front flip on that small box.
We're seeing him showcase flips in both directions. So far, 2 bangers, 360 double tail whip. Correction, 3 bangers and a look back.
Going for that transfer, flying into the box jump kicker. blasting a backflip tailwhip so perfect into huge speed. Yes! Into a nice 1083 rotations.
Lupo's currently sitting second place in points, just behind Daniel Dhers, looking to get on that top spot. Lupos has been so committed to BMX, really making a name for himself on the FISE World Series of the last 2 years. Whoa! Going for a cash roll transfer. I gotta be honest with you, I've never seen a rider go for a transfer during a cash roll because of the awkward nature of that spin. We talked about it earlier. You kind of do a 180 and then a backwards flip and a 180 around. But the fact that you're rotating with the transfer right there, you saw he got a little bit lost, but he was really putting it on the line. Brandon Lupos wanting to be in that top spot for Daniel Dhers.
Well, phenomenal riding. Let's take a couple looks back at that incredibly trick-jammed run from Mr. Lupos. Look at that 1083 rotations. We saw Brian Fox do it earlier in the contest, but Lupos really delivering a jam-packed run, including that in the middle of it.
So one rider left to go.
This is none other than Mr. Logan Martin from Brisbane, Australia. This guy has everything put together, and unfortunately, we did not see him in the finals at our last stop in Budapest, Hungary. Logan Martin dropping in. Let's see if he can reclaim some of the points that he missed out from that last stop.
Logan, generally one of the most consistent riders out here. That's why in 2016 he was your champion. Yes, backflip transfer. Logan not resting on his laurels out here, says, you know what, guys, I'm going to get back to the top.
Oh, it's a very interesting cork 720 there. He just snapped the rotation at the start and just let it flow around for the rest. So dialed this guy is. If you watch his Instagram, he is insane with tricks every single day, practicing new stuff. Downside tailwhip, and this is one of the riders you can definitely use that Worm app to check out all the slow motion replays. Make sure you go to the Apple or Android store and download that for yourself.
So right now, Logan no-handed 270 as the final tick-tock of the clock. And the crowd here in Edmonton lighten up your defending champion.
Wow, and making it look like it's just as easy as riding a bike down a straight road.
There's the transfer with the bar spin
transfer
and 360.
When you see it at that angle.
I'm going to say that's one of the coolest tricks of the competition so far. The fact that he really was just so smooth and so consistent and found that landing with the confidence of pumping into it. So we're going back to the top. That means we got 4 runs that remain before we find out who is going to be our third stop Edmonton FISE World Series finisher, as the Russian is looking at the battlefield, our FISE course. See him visualizing, getting in the zone.
Erik Ryzev going for that step down tuck no-hander. Double tailwhip transfer there. 360 tailwhip, or pardon me, alley-oop tailwhip tabletop.
Erik currently sitting in 5th points. Earned himself a 3rd in Budapest, looking to up it. Alley-oop bar spin to no-hander after that bar spin. Nose press up, transfer over, tucking the arms off. Ooh! Great use of that feature. Not many riders utilized it. That's not a common feature on the FISE course. Quick little transfer over, tail whip double time on the hip. Looking to throw a few extra toppings on the Sunday here as the clock is winding down. Erik getting final thoughts. Foot jam, can coming down. And that is going to be time for Erik Ryzev. You see him getting some support right there. Alex Nicolin keeping her boy hydrated. His riding partner out in Russia, double tail whip transfer. Charging in. Backflip, tail whip, tagging that knuckle just a little bit on the box, but enough to keep it rolling for the 60 seconds with that can-can foot jam.
And the next rider up, you've seen the highlight reel of his phenomenal season coming up to this 3-stop series on the FISE World Tour. This is Venezuelan Daniel Dhers, ready to do justice for the second time out here in Edmonton. Crowd is on their feet. This is the last opportunity that he can have to extend his lead on the rest of the pack. Daniel Dhers dropping in for a huge transfer, alley-oop 360 X-up.
Wow, cool seeing Daniel start things off different in his second run. Already with 2 transfers, going a double tail whip. Daniel Dhers is turning it up in his second run.
I have to add, that was an incredibly large 360 double whip transfer. That's huge difficulty that the judges are going to award him.
He is our current UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup points leader, and he's showing you why. Dhers throwing that bar spin in the opposite, coming in.
There's that backflip tuck, no-hander, alley-oop, bar spin. Going backwards on the small box. Let's see what he has coming up to the last 10 seconds of his run.
Dhers potentially on his way to a podium run right here.
Utilizing all those hip features right to the buzzer. 2 completely different runs. Daniel Dhers, like you said, dissecting this down to the wire and making it count for both runs. Let's see how the judges will mark that one. I really, really wish that I am not a judge ever in these scenarios, because I do not know how to score.
That was a great transfer you saw with that X-up, and then it set him up for the other 360 double tail whip transfer. Again, Daniel Dhers has some challenging tricks on locking. He could do them over unique features like that. So big ups for Daniel Dhers, smashing a solid second run. But if there's one rider who could potentially knock down our current points leader, he is sitting in second, less than 1,000 points behind our current leader of Daniel Dhers, is the Australian who went for that wild style cash roll transfer. This is none other than Brandon Lupos.
Lupos dropping in with a beautiful flare transfer right into a cash roll over the camel hum feature. Coming off of a huge win in Budapest, Brandon seems to be ignited.
Lupos knows it's going to take something major coming back from that crash in run number 1, and he's digging deep already, showing that big front flip, also that cash roll. Here we go.
Whoa, massive amplitude on that 540 flare, right into a backflip double tail whip.
Lupos charging back, 360 bar spin. Opposite 360, looking to lace them together here. Flare coming back. Lupos knows it's going to take some big moves, especially at the end. He's got to dig deep for that stamina. He is winded with 10 seconds to go. Lupos in the camel, out of the camel with the backflip.
Yes! Brandon Lupos showing that he has tricks on everything, and casually throwing a flare on that small quarter pipe below the UCI wall with virtually no speed.
I got to tell you, as scores are going to come in, that is going to be a nail biter to see if Lupos or Dhers are going to be sitting in front of each other, because Lupos had some enormous highlights like that cash roll, also that front flip. But let's take a look at the backflip drop in for Lupos. That is a red carpet entrance. There's the cash roll, threaded the needle over the camel. And here's a look at the end. Bam! Backflip out of rolling the camel. That is a tight little line.
Coming up to our last rider out of this massive 24 athlete heat. This is going to be the last one to drop. Australians, Logan Martin, your defending 2016 UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup champion. Logan Martin from Brisbane, Australia.
So Logan charging, yes, big transfer, wingspan out, double bar spin. Logan definitely a guy who can ride when it counts, hanging up just a little bit on that backflip transfer, but able to get it going.
Big backflip tailwhip as Martin comes across course here. Tuck no-hander into the transfer. 360 double bar spin.
That was enormous, Ryan, throwing the bars 2 times around while he traveled across the park. Backflip bar spin. Logan Martin, another one who knows it's going to take a lot to be in that top score to beat out Daniel Sandoval, who's currently sitting with an 88.2. Logan Martin in final moments. Another rider who's up against the ropes looking to dig deep and get a haymaker in before the clock is out. And that is going to be time for Logan Martin. Edmonton showing respect to our defending champion. You can see right there giving a pound to Daniel Sandoval. Again, Daniel is your current points leader. The man with the target, an 88.20 is going to be what every rider needs to line up their sights and pull the trigger to take down our current leader of Sandoval.
So it's been an amazing event out here. Just saw our last rider go. Coming up next at 6 p.m. it's going to be the mountain bike slopestyle pro finals underway here in Edmonton. Make sure you guys join us at the next stop. It's going to be Chengdu, China.
The level of riding was so crazy throughout this entire series, but it did not slow down and did not do anything short of deliver one spectacular final. Oh, Bruce, one and done.
Welcome everybody. We are back here waiting for the results to come in for the UCI BMX Freestyle Park Finals out here in Edmonton. It's the third stop of 4 for the FISE World Series, and we have had just a jam-packed 24-rider heat for this final event here of the Freestyle BMX. It's been amazing to watch. Daryl, how have you found this contest so far?
The fact that we're here in Edmonton on this one-of-a-design course with so many transfers that the riders are really able to showcase, even in the conditions with all the wind that we've been having, has been so exciting with that platform where we're watching riders like Logan Martin jump right, jump left, Daniel Dhers really bringing the heat, Daniel Sandoval, who's currently sitting in that top spot, and as scores are going to come in, we're going to see which rider, if any, has enough to wind up beating him out of that top spot.
For me, the personal crowd favorite was Daniel Sandoval. It was amazing to see him come out and do such phenomenal runs back-to-back. In heat number 5, he came out and he's currently, like you said, sitting on top of the leaderboard. We're going to have to see if any of the last 4 riders had what it takes to bump him out of that hot seat.
So we're looking at the battlefield as smoke is rising as we had our 24 soldiers out there trying to get in that top spot. Everyone after our 4 stops wants to beat out Logan Martin. But right now in 2017, the riders want to make sure that they're in front of Daniel Dhers, who is our current points leader. We are looking at this beautiful backdrop here in William Harlick Park as scores are coming in from our judges to determine which rider is going to earn the most points here.
There's been a very large heat of riders, 24 riders for a final. That's something that we do not usually see out here. The wind played a huge condition yesterday for the athletes, and it did not hold up all the way through to today. As you saw, it was very windy still for the riders. How did you think that the riders did actually with all that wind conditions?
To be honest with you, I thought we were going to see a lot of guys change up their approach out there, in particular that have a lot of tech tricks. let's say, Alex Colborn, for example. I know that he has that ability to really focus on the lip tricks. He's had a lot of firsts for himself, including 540 foot jams with tail whips in and out. He's definitely focused that in the past at Montpellier, and it's paid off big for him. But all of our riders really focused on going airborne off the box jump and the quarter pipes, and really didn't look like they would have changed up their approach or game plan at all, given the conditions.
So it's nice to see actually a full pull from all the athletes. Everyone went out there and did judge this. All 24 of them got 2 runs in the bag, and now it's time for the judges to debate about how the last 4 riders are going to match up in that heat. How difficult is it from a judge's perspective to have those last 4 runs in the bag and think, okay, now we have to put it against the other 20 athletes?
Well, that's the challenging point. The fact that we did not have a proper semifinal and we went straight to our final due to wind conditions yesterday. So our judges really have to take all 48 runs into consideration. They have to tally those 2 runs together, come up with the score, and then see how that they're going to fit within the other riders. So when you do have this point series, and we are with the UCI and we're on our road to the Olympics, it increases the difficulty so much, and it's a big challenge for our 5 judges.
I just have a little birdie whispering in my ear. Results are in, and we have a new leader. Daniel Dhers is going to be taking it out here with a 90.80, and Logan Martin nipping at his heels with an 89.20. Going down to Brandon Lupos, pushes himself into a 9th place finish out here in Edmonton.
Wow, so Dhers in that top spot, the only rider to break into the 90s. We're seeing Eric Ryzev having a little bit of difficulties back there with the 73.80. But thing to definitely note, consistency was the name of the game. Lupos had great runs, even though he had that one crash out there, and you saw he was not able to break into any type of podium position. But Daniel Dhers in that top spot,
solidifying his lead in the FISE World Series standings. Daniel Dhers showing that he is not holding up anything as this series goes on.
So Dhers really dominating out there. I want to give a few shout outs to certain aspects of his run that I feel helped him come out on top. One of them being the transfer lines going from that extended spine into the box jump with the 360 double tail whip. But then he said, you know what, I can go the other way as well. We saw the 360 X up into the camel, and he just had a lot of consistency throughout both of his runs.
I think we want to hear a word from our winner, Daniel Dhers, down there with the interview.
Look at this, we're here with Daniel Dhers. Daniel, you just won this competition again. How did you feel today? How was it?
Man, it was kind of crazy out here. You know, we've been dealing with the wind for a couple of days. So, you know, it's a lot in the mind. It's like you're prepared, you're ready to go, and then you feel the wind blowing. It's like, well, what do I do? Do I risk it? Do I stay safe? So I think that was the biggest challenge today. But I'm glad everybody stayed safe. I think everybody came very strong-minded because we knew the elements were going to be here. And it was crazy. I'm very happy to be here in Canada. And, you know, thank you, everybody. You guys are an amazing crowd. So, yeah, without you guys, we wouldn't be here. And, you know, winning a FISE is amazing. You know, the biggest contest in the world, and now it's a world tour. I remember we were at a, you know, small city in Montpellier, back in France, and now we're a world tour. So I got to thank FISE for this amazing opportunity, and thank you guys for everything.
Thank you. I think we can make some noise for our good friend Daniel Dhers. Maybe one last question. What did you think about the course? Was that a difficult course to handle, or you're pretty used to it? How did it work for you?
The course this year was pretty good. You had a bunch of transfer options. So, you know, in BMX, you have a lot of guys that focus a lot on tricks, and then you have some guys that focus more on the line. So it was pretty cool that this course was able to mix both. And, you know, you were able to maybe do some tricks on some of the lines and keep going. So I think, you know, FISE has gotten better over the years at building courses. And, you know, you couldn't ask for anything better than this.
Thank you so much. We can once again make some noise for him. Daniel Dhers, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks again, Daniel Dhers, for those amazing humble words and respect paid to everyone out here at the FISE organization at Edmonton and at all the athletes and audience for coming down and cheering on. This wouldn't be an event at all without all of these parties coming together.
So we're seeing Daniel Dhers solidifying his lead right now with 3 stops down. He has a 27.2 over Brandon Lupos, who's back there with a 22.1, and Daniel Sandoval holding strong with a 20.8, followed by your defending champion Logan Martin with a 19.7. So you're seeing an enormous lead put by Daniel Dhers because of that second stop in Budapest, where Logan Martin was only awarded 700 points.
If you see 3 separate winners for each 3 of our stops on the tour, it is going to lead to a tight point battle as we go into our last stop. Had some amazing highlights out here in Edmonton, but remember, we still have one more event underway. Stay tuned for the mountain bike slope style finals. On behalf of myself, Ryan Meyer, and Daryl Nell, thank you so much for tuning in to the BMX Freestyle Finals. Make sure to stay tuned for all the next highlights and actions as we go along with the FISE World Series.